Whatever you're at.
Which one did you do first? Just streaming. The names.
Okay, ready to go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special council meeting being held on Tuesday, the 6th of August 2024. I'd like to begin with the acknowledgement of the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land. The City of Prospect acknowledges that we are on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region, and we pay our respect to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And now the Council Pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Okay, item 2 on the agenda, on leave, there are nil. Item 3, apologies. We've received an apology from Councillor Mark Standen. Item 4 on the agenda, declaration by members of a conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest? That being the case, we'll move on to part 5, reports for decisions. So we're going to split these two out. We're going to have 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. We're going to address them separately. So 5.1 overall is a notice of rescission, street names put forward by Deputy Mark Mayor. Motion is item 5.1.1 there on page 2 of your agenda. I take it you'd like to move that, Councillor Deputy Mayor Mark Greig.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will move it. And obviously, as morning, that motion has come before us, and I probably not to labour the point too much, but just wanted to point out probably the reason why I decided to do that. After our last council meeting, when we had made the decision on this item, there was a lot of commentary in the meeting and the previous meetings that we hadn't had a chance to meet with the USA, and we thought that was a really important part of our process. And so for me, it was partly a process issue as well as partly an outcome issue. And so I had alerted the CEO that evening that I was foreshadowing a decision motion very soon thereafter, and got support from 2 other councillors to put that motion forward to the CEO, on the basis that we had an opportunity to meet with the USA, hear what they had to say, and understand from their perspective what they were looking for in terms of an outcome for the street name. I'm sure I'll mention this again a little bit later on, but I'm reminded by the earlier statement of the heart behind us that we have a very strong commitment to reconciliation in this council, and that didn't reflect in the decision of council either on that night, and I think partly because we hadn't had those opportunities to have the conversation and consider through and consider other options apart from the ones before us on the evening. So it's for that reason I'm really keen to see this rescission motion get up. It allows us to reset the clock on the namings. We've had the workshop earlier this evening on this issue with the USA in attendance. It might be that we end up with exactly the same decision. That's not where I want it to end, but it could be that we end up with the same decision that we had last council meeting. But my preference would be for us to rescind the motion that we had, start again and have a conversation and debate which is now fully informed by that conversation with the USA. So I certainly commend this motion to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Greig. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tweener, would like to speak to the motion.
Much needed information that we've been awaiting for and we've requested. That certainly gave me insight into their preference and what, and they did say that they they were keen with garden names, but they didn't have the opportunity to source those names, so that was really important for me. But no, happy to support the motion to receive the original the resolution on the 23rd of June.
Thank you, Councillor Twentyman. Any further discussion?
Just make a point, so I'm sure I'm going to be the only one that makes this point, which is fine. I don't mind being the odd one out.
Never.
Congratulations to Deputy Mayor Groot for bringing this forward, but I can't support the motion. I did mention it late last week that I just believe this is a slap in the face of democracy. Despite all the councillors wanting a workshop, we asked for it twice. It wasn't forthcoming. It wasn't offered. We did have a string of emails to review. We discussed the matter for well over an hour, and the Chamber voted. The Chamber voted, a decision was made, and if every decision made came with a rescission motion the next day, we wouldn't get anything done. So I can't support this.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Baker.
Look, it doesn't happen very often, and I think Deputy Mayor Mark Derek for bringing this to us. I think the original intent was to have Ghana names, and throughout the whole site that was expressed tonight by everything. So it's certainly encouraging of getting this passed, and so as you can understand, we're trying to get lots divided and everything. I don't do this very often, but I'm inclined to put the motion for decision.
So that's a formal motion that the motion be put.
Okay. Okay, so let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Okay, item 5.1.2. So there are the proposed names. There, would anyone like to move that way? Deputy Mayor Mark Groot, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, but I'd just like to comment out, if I'm talking with you, I've never seen that motion successfully used. I want to congratulate Councillor Baker for using it. I had no idea it was about to come up, so that's fantastic. And I guess it goes to the point I was going to make if I had the opportunity to sum up, which I didn't, which is sometimes we use process in council to get the best possible outcomes, and that's why I put the decision motion up. It's not saying that happens often, but it does happen, and it does happen to make sure we get the best possible outcome, or at least the best informed decision that we've got. So thank you, Councillor Baker, for moving it forward. I will move the names in front of us on the screen there, blue through to black, noting that grey will be sorted another time. These are the names that were considered by us earlier in the workshop. They were the first time I'd seen those names, but I was certainly impressed with the amount of work that has happened over a very, very short period of time to get these names to us. And probably take the time to pause and thank particularly Farley and her team who has worked with our community and particularly our Bainfleet Kamunka members for considering what we want out of this outcome in terms of a bigger and more prominent presence of Indigenous names. And I'm told, particularly Dennis Rigney, Ros Coleman and Tim Aegis, and also John, we'll never say John's surname correctly, Covia, for their effort and work getting to us some names that we think is appropriate. And so I think that's really worth acknowledging. I'm supportive of this because over many years this council has promoted itself as a council that promotes reconciliation. See behind me is the Uluru Statement of the Heart. I encourage members, if they haven't read it recently, to have another read of that. But it goes to the very core of what reconciliation is about in communities. And we have discussed at lots of length over many, many years in this council, before me and it'll be after me, the commitment we have to reconciliation. That's why at the beginning of every meeting we have that statement from the Mayor. And I think not having Indigenous names in one of the very, very few opportunities we're going to have to name roads was a travesty, and I think the wrong decision was made at that time. And so for me, this rights that wrong decision. That's my personal view, that it was not the right decision on that evening. And what this does is actually brings to the fore a number of Indigenous names that RenewSA are very happy with. In fact, they're promoting. They made it very, very clear tonight, and I wanted them to be very clear because I hadn't heard them say it before this evening, that they were keen to have those names, Indigenous names, across the whole site. And they feel that is a really strong sense of commitment to reconciliation from council, but also from the NSA. So I'm very, very supportive of the names in front of us. I think this is a fantastic outcome. I do think, notwithstanding that we had made a decision on the 23rd of July, I think this is the right decision to make, and I really commend it. I hope councillors around the table can see that this also reflects our commitment to reconciliation. If we choose not to use Indigenous names, to me it does question whether we are actually a council that commits to reconciliation, when we have an opportunity to do this. And I think we'll only probably have one more opportunity beyond this to consider the naming of streets in Sydney Prospect. We don't have huge greenfield sites, we don't have a lot of greenfield sites, so we have one more tranche of land that we'll be doing this with, and I'm sure in the years to come, whoever is sitting around this table will have some debates about it. I commend this to you. I just want to reiterate my thanks, and I'll do that something as well to Farley and team, and Carol, so Carol and Farley and teams for bringing this to us tonight. I really commend the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Margaret. Do I have a second? Councillor Tweenan would like to speak to the motion.
For the effort, and the meaning behind these names were in the presentation that Caroline was really nice. It ties the business together really well. So I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tweenan. Any further discussion, Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I agree with the process that we've now arrived at. I would just query whether, for consistency, we call it street name request, and then number 2 it says endorses the road names, and then 3 we call it street. So should it be just street names? Do that in a second.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Anything else from you, Councillor Barnett?
No, I just wondering, do we check with the new from the second? We didn't all that.
It's a silent nod.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Briefly from the Chair, I think one of the barriers that was raised a little while ago was the timeliness of the Ghana naming group to process this and come up with some appropriate names. It's fantastic to see that the relationship we've built through PK is bearing fruit, and that we're able to get significant leaders in that community to quickly come together and provide us with some support here. So again, I commend the team for forming and maintaining those relationships such that we're able to successfully move through something quite quickly where it appeared otherwise it wouldn't be possible. That's what I wanted to say. Back to Deputy Mayor Mark Groot to sum up.
Look, thank you to the Chamber for the opportunity for us to re-debate this issue out, to consider what the names are. I hope this motion gets up. I think to the Mayor's point, which is a really, really good one, a couple of years ago we had the opportunity to go and talk to a group that could give us some advice about what the naming would like. And that just shows where that relationship with our local Banfield Kamunga group has taken us, and I can only hope that this actually helps to reinforce that relationship between council and the group going forward as well, and that will bear fruit both for us and also for the BK group. Again, a special thanks to Dennis, Roz, Tim and John for their contribution and their commitment to this. I do commend the motion to you. All I can ask is that every elected member thinks very carefully about this decision, as we do for all decisions, but I certainly commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Margaret. Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. So if you voted in favour of, then you stand. If you voted against, then you stand. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your contributions. So we're now moving on to the next part of the agenda, which is to address confidential items. So we're just going to stop the recording first of all.
It's a general as a screen.
It was, yeah, no, that was going to be necessary.
We can't provide